Welcome to this week's edition of From the Pressbox. Leroy, you kind of slid in there right before. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm out of breath. Doctor says I have bronchitis, so we're doing all right. I tell you what,
chain smoking again.
I promise I've stopped. Listen, this is not. I may have had some issues in the past, but I'm telling you, it was pretty rough. Yet we would not have been able to do this show yesterday. I did not have a voice. I went to bed at 6 p.m. Woke up at 9, ate a little food, went back to sleep until 1, woke up, watched a little TV, and then slept from like 1:30 to like 7. So if that tells you anything, that yesterday was just not going to happen.
See, I still voted that we just had you souped up on whatever drugs they gave you, because I think it would have made for a very entertaining show for, our millions upon millions upon millions of listeners.
Viewers.
What
does Pat McAfee do when he gets sick?
He apparently calls off, because that's what because literally you and Pat McAfee are pretty much the same person.
Right. Absolutely.
You all look similar. You both have elite athleticism abilities.
That's true.
And you both...
I can kick a football pretty good.
You both are male.
Yeah, well.
I assume you both like beer. I know you do. I assume I'd be shocked if Pat McAfee does not.
Pat McAfee likes WWE. That man drinks beer.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of it'd be the shocker of a lifetime if Pat McAfee doesn't. But on the show, we've got an update on the NCAA football game. A lot of MLB talk. It was a wild week in the MLB. Tidbits. I've got a Who Am I that we can drop in that I think you're gonna like a lot. Logos, play clock, drivers. Interesting little wrinkle to the NASCAR pick contest as well. We'll talk about that. I don't know if you know what it might be, Leroy, but
a shortened race.
Well, there's an interesting. We're just gonna have to get to it.
Fine.
We'll have to talk a little bit about the Cougs, because if you remember on last week's show, I said maybe we wouldn't do the show on Wednesday because the Cougs, you never really knew what might potentially come up. But I think the best way to start, Leroy, is we mentioned you and Pat McAfee, and something you both have in common is that I assume Pat McAfee spent some time in Indianapolis over the weekend. I know you did. You got a little wet, though.
Did. I did. I tell you what, they did a really, really good job. Listen, I can't imagine it's easy trying to handle a rain delay with 300,000 people. We talk about, like Wrigley Field and places like that where you house 40, maybe 50,000 people. That's one thing. But to do 300,000 people, that is tough. And they did a really, really good job with it. I can't imagine what that pagoda was like. The behind the scenes that was going on of trying to coordinate with the guys that do the jet flyovers, with trying to get people in place for where they're supposed to be. That had to have been a nightmare. But they did a really fantastic job with that. Ended up they delayed the race by 4 hours. It started in the afternoon and got the race off. No problem. It was super exciting, even though the driver that we liked the least won. It was super, super exciting. Great race. And I tell you what, it had a little bit of everything. Drama, excitement. I really, really liked it. The only issue is when the race is in the morning, a lot of people will stick around after the race, hang out, just relax, drink. This race ended at, I think I want to say 5:30 is when this race ended. We waited an hour after the race ended to kind of help a little bit of people clear out. We got to the parking lot. It was dark. It was dark, and a thunderstorm hit. Nice. So we ended up spending 4 hours in traffic trying to get out of Speedway, Indiana, when usually we spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours in traffic. So
what time did you get home then?
We got home at 2:30.
I'm sure Christy was super thrilled about that.
What's great about that whole thing is Christy has given me crap in years past about taking forever to get home. Oh, you take forever to get home. We're sitting in traffic. I look over at her. I'm like, yeah, not so fun, is it? Huh? Oh, was I lying? No.
I just assumed you were going to try and find a way to get on Kyle Larson's helicopter.
You know what?
Did you see it?
No. But
because it's on the golf course, wasn't it? Not was it not on the backstretch? It was on the golf course.
They just
where they
throw
landed.
him over on the golf cart. He got on there and
because I love that the video I saw, he had like his box of like Bojangles, or it was some like it was literally like
for him. They just handed him a box of food as he was getting out the helicopter.
Yeah, and it was fun. Yeah, it was funny because it was like he was a college kid, because you'll see that at Western games, and it's not just WKU. I'll see it at Center. I'm sure you see it doing UIS games as well. That the visiting team, it's always catered. It's funny, like at Center, it's always like Quiznos. I think that's who it is. And it's just funny because you always see like those box lunches and they're just stacked up. But it was just funny seeing him. And Kyle Larson, not a big guy anyways.
Right. My height.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he is. I don't know. I mean, how
they list him at like 5'6", 5'7", and I don't think that's accurate.
5'6" is what they say here on.
I don't. That man is my height.
Yeah. So 3 feet tall, pretty much along the lines of that. But I'm glad you had a good time. It seems like you enjoyed it, and it seemed like it was a good race. I watched just for you 5 minutes of the first 5 minutes of the pregame show. And I saw Danica.
You handled Danica for 5 minutes, which is pretty good.
And then was it Jimmy Johnson on the pregame show?
Mike Tirico.
Yes, because I love Mike Tirico. And then they're like, and here comes the rain. I was like, oh, it's like I can watch pregame, but I'm not sure I can watch 4 hours of them filling time on IndyCar talk.
I just laughed so hard because they're like, okay, y'all, there's lightning coming. You all need to clear the bleachers. Now, my buddy is a meteorologist. The guy that went with us is a meteorologist. He worked at WNKY with me when I was at WNKY. He's up in southern Indiana now. Yep. And he goes, I don't know why they're clearing. The weather is still like an hour and a half away. I said, because it's 300,000 people. That's why they're trying to start now.
CYA.
So they clear everybody out. And all the people do is like some of the people leave and they get underneath the bleachers and they get into a good protected area. Everybody else just went under the shade of the bleachers. And you hear the announcer, the PA announcer going, listen, it is a lightning storm. You are not technically safe even under shade if you're sitting on metal bleachers. I'm not telling you what to do, but I would strongly suggest you move to a sheltered area. And everybody's just sitting there like, yeah, it's fine.
Gotta love it, right? Gotta love people.
Just sat there just shaking my head like I couldn't believe it.
If you remember on last week's show, I mentioned that there was the potential, albeit small, that we would have not been able to do the show yesterday because of me, because it would have been the region baseball championship. And I remember I said, it was small chance, and the Cougs played on Monday. They drew the number 8 team in the state. And I'll tell you what, Leroy, they were like one pitch away. I mean, it was a great game. Play here, play there. Something goes different. I mean, Leroy, they only lost 23-1.
Only 23-1.
Only 23-1 was the final score of the game.
Those are the games Leroy gets in and plays.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's 15-1. That's when Leroy gets to play.
It was, yeah. And I felt bad. I saw the coach of the team yesterday. I asked him how he was feeling. He says, "Oof, rough." And I kind of wanted to start this. Though. Yeah. I always am curious on this, and I think that was to an extreme, but I've always been, that was the last game for 2 of the seniors.
Yeah.
And I've always been curious is for you playing in your final game, would you rather lose maybe not 23-1, but let's say 9-1 or 10-1 or something like that? Or would you rather lose? Yeah, this is it. That was the last game of the season. Their season's over. Or would you rather lose 3-2, close game or something like that? I feel like I would prefer to get blown out because then you can out,
and then I'm rooting for that team to win everything.
Oh, see, no, they were not. Because that team kind of piled on. and then they got beat the next night.
Oh, did they?
They did. They kind of piled on. And then once they got to 23, it was funny that they're like, yeah, we probably should slow down a little bit. I was like, okay. Because I even got to the point where I was like, and it's 21-1.
Was it walks or they just hitting everything in sight?
It wasn't necessarily walks. I don't think they had an ungodly amount of walks. It was just not great defense and so on along the lines of that. It was just a pure recipe for disaster, and it was tough. It was just a tough day to be a Cougar, but we don't need to dwell on that. So that's why we were not delayed because of that, but we are delayed because of Leroy, but luckily he is feeling a little bit better.
This show would not have happened yesterday, I promise you.
Some new information did come out about the NCAA football game.
Yes, we have tons of updates, actually.
Yes, and I know you said you had a tiered list.
Yep,
do you want to start with that, or do you want to go with some of the updates on gameplay?
Yeah, we can start with that. So the EA Sports is paying, and I don't remember the numbers of what they're paying them, but they're paying them a certain amount based off of what tier they're in. So
you're talking about the school itself. Okay.
The school, yes. So the school will receive a higher amount, and it's based off of the last 10 AP football polls, which is very interesting when you think about what teams have been good for the last 10 years. So Sam, what I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teams are in tier 1. Well, how many can you name from that tier 1?
Well, I've seen this list, so I'm not gonna.
You saw the list already?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, I've seen it. So I know you've got your Alabamas, your Ohio States.
Yep.
The obvious ones in there, your Georgias, and so on. Is Iowa in there?
Yeah, the only two schools.
And then is it Oklahoma State?
Yes, 3 schools in there that kind of shocked me was Oklahoma State, Utah,
that was the other one.
Penn State is in there too. And that's got to be from the first part of these last 10 years, because it sure ain't from the last 5 years. I'll tell you that much right now. Because James Franklin,
that's how you really feel.
Otherwise, tier 2 has some pretty good names in here. USC, Florida State, Texas, Wisconsin, Florida, Washington, Cincinnati, Tennessee, TCU, Ole Miss, Boise State, Northwestern, Auburn, Baylor, Michigan State, South Carolina, Louisville, University of Central Florida, Memphis, Kansas, North Carolina, University of Miami, Mississippi State, the Raging Cajuns. Yeah, let's go.
See, I'm impressed. I'm impressed by this because this is you reading logos.
Yes, it is. And a lot of this is from us playing our game. Pitt, Liberty, UK, Utah State, Southern Methodist, Texas A&M, Florida. I don't know. It's the Florida Bowl one that I always mess up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking. Yes,
which one is it?
Yeah,
because I think it's one that I've even used twice on the show.
Twice, and I still get it wrong each time. Was it Central Florida?
No.
Oh, UCLA, Auburn. Nope, that's Arizona, Leroy. West Virginia, University of Houston, Virginia Tech.
You mean this one?
Yes. I always mess that one up.
What is it? Oh my! All of a sudden, all of my comments have popped up. So sorry I haven't been commenting. Put in the comments. They literally all of a sudden I just all of a sudden got like 25 comments that appeared. I was gonna see. Now we can see you, Paul. That's kind of weird. Like I was kind of like the comments are very quiet today, and then all of a sudden they just appeared. So South Florida, yes, that's going.
WKU is in tier 3. Vanderbilt, shocking the world. Tier 4. I know, crazy. But yeah, just kind of interesting how this goes. Not a whole lot of shockers throughout the rest of these. I think, when you look at that tier 2, there's some really good matchups in tier 2. I think there's some really good matchups there.
Sorry, I'm just blown away now that all of a sudden the comments, like I feel weird that we had
I was trying to figure out why you were ignoring all of them.
Well, because literally I was just sitting here like none of these are like we've not gotten a single comment. I was like, I know we're a day late, but like, do people hate us that much? And then I clicked away to pull up the South Florida logo, and then I came back. It was literally they all populated. That was weird. I've never seen that before.
Purdue is tier 4. I was trying to see if there's any other weird ones that are here.
The changes to the announcements for the actual changes on the game itself, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So for one, the road to glory. You mentioned that, Paul. We still love you. I literally, that was weird. You mentioned road to glory is in the game, and it is, but
it's changed.
No high school.
Boo!
Which to me, that
one of my players was like, "I'm not getting it." I'm like, "You're ridiculous."
I'm not that extensive, but I am very disappointed with that. One of the things that starts is that you will now have the ability to, of your skill tree as a coach, you have 11 branches, and you really have to build each logo, each of your branch, but you can't max out on all of them. Like they even said, Nick Saban would not be a perfect 99 in everything. But what you can do is, let's say you want to be a recruiting head coach. Then you're going to get the ability to hire offensive and defensive coordinators who then could maybe specialize in offensive game planning or something, or they specialize in recruiting safeties or so on. And that's going to be one of the aspects. The recruiting aspect to it.
We know you're very excited. You know why we know you're very excited? Because they announced Rocky Top is going to be in the game for University of Tennessee. I know you were really worried.
I will have to watch on mute.
Was going to be in the game, but
I'll have to mute it. Okay, when that happens. For recruiting, 4,000 recruits every single year, spread across the talent as well. But one of the aspects that I like that they're going to do for this is that if you remember in the game, if you were recruited, had a couple of recruits from Florida, you would get Florida as a pipeline. Yep. But they're now splitting Florida and saying, if you get a recruit from Tallahassee, that doesn't help you get somebody from Miami.
Which makes sense.
Yes. And I'm like, I like that aspect. Transfer portal is going to be in there, but you're also on recruiting visits. And I like this aspect too, is if you bring in a quarterback with a couple of wide receivers, that will help in that scenario potentially get guys that will commit together. But if you on a recruiting visit the same week bring in 3 quarterbacks, you're going to piss them all off. And I like that because that is aspects of the game.
That would legit happen. If you showed up for a visit, there were 2 other quarterbacks there, bro.
If the in transfer portal, if for some reason you're down, you have a recruit, and the final is Northwestern and Wisconsin, he commits to Wisconsin. If he ends up hitting the portal 2 years later, you get the opportunity to have like the one up on him because he already knows what your system is. Which I kind of like. So those are a couple of the aspects in there. But really, Leroy, I think the big news of the week is, and now I got to see, I just want to make sure. Have we gotten any comments except for John's last one, this one?
That's the last one.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not like that. This is completely not just crapping the bed.
And I read also the running game has really changed a lot. But because the running game has changed a lot, defense has changed a lot. You can't hit stick and just expect to get the tackle. You really have to, this year apparently, and you're going to have to really work for that tackle, but it's going to be a very high risk, high reward type system as far as if you're able to find that hole and find that gap, you're going to break it. You're going to break off for quite a bit. So I'm pretty excited how they do the dynamics of this as far as this being a completely separate game from Madden. I really hope that they can stick with this because there's so many people that are getting on board with what is going on with that and with what is happening as far as hyping this up. They really have a chance to really build on what could be a really great football game.
Tomorrow, a trailer comes out. And that's going to be huge. I'm really excited about this. Paul asks, what's Leroy think about Caleb Williams and OTAs?
I think that I don't care if he throws 7 touchdowns or throws 7 interceptions. You know, a fake tweet went out that said, oh, Bears were benching him, and a whole bunch of people got on board with it and loved it. I don't care.
This person might be one of them.
Yeah, definitely. It's OTAs. No one cares. half the guys weren't even there for it. We get to the first couple weeks of practice, and he's still having issues.
But he paints his nails, Leroy.
Then you can talk and laugh at me a couple weeks.
He paints his nails. What does Dave Klamola think about his quarterback painting his nails?
I don't know how you can hate on Caleb Williams when he hasn't thrown a single pass in the NFL yet. No idea how you can. Yeah, great.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't like in March. Wasn't there somebody on this show that was kind of a Caleb Williams hater? Not necessarily on board with wanting him on the team. I mean, I'm not naming any names, but it wasn't me. And there have only been like 2 other people that have ever been on this show.
Jacob Thoe?
To Jacob.
Caleb.
It wasn't Caleb.
It wasn't Caleb. Caleb hates Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb, he might hate Caleb. But let's get into some of the bigger news because I'm interested here. I'm sure Paul Reeves has big topics on this because baseball. Oh my goodness, there was a lot that happened in the world of baseball over this last week, and we frankly probably don't have enough time to dive into all of that. Let's just do a couple of quick hitters on baseball. Paul, I don't know what the Braves did to piss off the baseball gods this year, but you lose your best pitcher, and then Acuna is now out for the season with a torn ACL.
Second time torn ACL.
That's awful. Acuna is probably my favorite player in baseball that is not on the Reds. Yeah. Or does not have a connection to the Reds, or something like that. Just because he's so good. He's so good.
I'd rock an Acuna jersey.
I don't know that I go that far, but I like it. He's good. Yeah. And I hated to see that news, and I'm really intrigued. I mean, the Braves have now lost their best pitcher and their best hitter. What happens? I'm fascinated for them, and because I know, and Paul, you can correct me, I have a friend who is a Braves fan, and he was questioning the depth of the organization. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but this is really going to test the depth, and he was worried. He's very worried about that. He says it hurts, but I want to see what they can do without him. 4-3 to the Nationals. Oof. Although Leroy and I really have no room to talk about our baseball team.
Absolutely not.
But guess what? We get to see who sucks the best this weekend at Wrigley.
If you've seen the Cubs offense, please call Chicago because they're desperately looking for him. And the bullpen. Anybody that can throw strikes in inning 8 or inning 9, that would be fantastic. Thanks.
Well, I hope. Can we wait like a week and a half? Because back-to-back weekends, the Reds play the Cubs. So if you can just wait like a week and a half to find it, that would be helpful because
you guys are battling injuries too.
Can I interest you in a guy by the name of Mike Ford? We just DFA'd him.
No, but he'll take some guy named Cruz De La
something.
Doesn't matter.
You can't have Ellie. You can't have Ellie. Sorry, he's all
right. So let's take a look at the other big news that came out this week.
Yeah, go for it.
And that is that the Major League Baseball announced that they're integrating Negro League records into Major League records. So they're integrating the 2 of them. A lot of people were on board with it. A lot of people were not. I'll tell you the reasons why. And again, this is not what Sam and I think. I'm just telling you the reasons why people were against this. We talk about, there's even been speculation about, Babe Ruth not playing against the best of the best. So now when we throw Negro Leagues in there, we're talking about some games that may have been, outfield may have been only 280 feet or 320 feet. The game's different. It's changed since then. I don't really care. I've been saying for many, many years that Josh Gibson was probably as good of a power hitter as Babe Ruth, if not maybe even a little bit better.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that he's the best hitter of all time.
I remember 5 to 10 years ago when I made that argument, I got laughed at by many, many baseball fans. Oh, that's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The stats show I may not be too far off on it. Gibson was amazing, and it shows because they've integrated a whole lot of their records into Major League Baseball records. I'll go over some of them with you right now because I have some of them. Batting average. Josh Gibson's .466 average for 1943 homestead graze is now the highest mark in Major League history, followed by Charlie Chino Smith's 451 mark for the 1929 New York Lincoln Giants. Both of those averages eclipsed the previously recognized record held by Hall of Famer Hugh 440 of the 1894 Boston Meteors. What does this all have in common? This all happened prior to 1950. Though Barry Bonds' 609 mark for on-base percentage in 2004 still leads, Gibson and Smith moved into the top 5 with 564 and 551. Gibson's in third, Smith is in fourth. 4 slugging marks now eclipse Bonds' 863 mark with the 2001 Giants. Gibson, 974, followed by Hall of Famer Mule Suttles, 877. Gibson, 871, and Smith, 870. On base plus slugging. Gibson tops Bonds with a 1.421, the 1.474 set with the 1937 Grays, and a 1.435 mark with the 1943 Grays. Earned run average. Single season best still belongs to Hall of Famer Tim Keefe, 86, of the 1880 Troy Trojans. But Satchel Paige now ranks third with a 1.1 mark for the 1944 Kansas City Monarchs.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a lot of changes to these, but I mean, and I know now everyone brings up the point of, do you bring in the Japanese stats? Like, is Ichiro now, are you going to have to make him your all-time leader in the category of hits if you take in his Japanese stats? And it's a question. I think it's a little bit different.
Listen, everybody knows already Ichiro is one of the greatest hitters of all time.
I think there's probably one Ichiro Smith out there somewhere.
No one needs to put Ichiro's names in the record books for everyone to acknowledge. Excuse me.
Good.
For everyone to acknowledge how good Ichiro is. He's a fantastic hitter. I don't necessarily think that there's enough there where you have other Japanese players that touch those marks. The Negro Leagues were a professional league. They were a professional baseball league in the United States. Whether they were recognized or not by Major League Baseball really doesn't matter because they were a professional league. They had minor league systems that worked their way up to what their professional leagues were. So there is a absolute right, and maybe right's not the right word, but there is an absolute like it makes sense to add these. You can talk about whether or not like some of those games counted, whether they were official or not. To those guys that played those games, there was no higher level for those guys to get to.
Yeah.
They weren't
allowed. I don't know where you can I don't know how you can punish them for that too.
They just weren't allowed, and to punish them years later for stats. I mean, look, the exposure that these guys are getting now, 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have really known who the Kansas City Monarchs were, the New York Rays. You wouldn't have known who any of these teams are. But I think Major League Baseball has done a very good job of saying, look, we've messed up in the past, and these are the right ways that we're fixing it. I get it. There's people that don't like it, and there's people that are against it. But at the end of the day, these were the best of the best in their league.
I mean,
you can't fix that.
And Josh Gibson
fixing it right now.
Josh Gibson, the saddest part, I mean, he dies at 35.
Yeah.
373 average, 166 home runs, 733 RBIs. He won 3 batting titles and so on. And I can see Paul's point here of you can't punish them, but how can you bring them into the record books for Major League Baseball? That's what I'm saying. Again, don't have a problem with it. And I think I'm kind of in that same realm. Like, I understand.
People are automatically labeling you a racist if you disagree with it. And that's not the right answer either. Look, we already joke a lot about how Babe Ruth may have hit a whole bunch of home runs, but he was playing against scrubs. He was playing against iron workers. The game was different back then. Well, if you think about the top white players playing against scrubs, who are the blacks playing against? And again, It's felt this
What?
week that if you disagreed with this, you were racist. And a lot of people, that wasn't the case. It was a case of what Paul said, where you can't connect the two because they were such different levels of competition.
Yeah. And I agree with that. It's complicated. I understand both sides of it. And in all seriousness, to me, it's just one of these things that it's like, do I really care? And I'm like, no, not really. So it has no impact on me at all.
Most of these records are never going to be broken because the game has changed so much.
Oh yeah.
Nolan Ryan's strikeout record is never going to be broken because guys just don't throw that much anymore. We talk about
Cy
Ben
Young.
Brown, right? Like, right. I mean, Brown threw 93 pitches and he was done. 10 years ago, that man is pitching until he gives up a hit.
Yeah, and I think
the game has changed tremendously from what it was even 20, 30 years ago.
And the biggest reason for that, and Mike Williams made the greatest point that on Facebook, is the pitching has changed since then. As just even just the base. I mean, you're learning more into spinning the ball, more worry. I mean, and there's more knowledge of the arm. I mean,
Ferguson
you think back to the number one reason. I mean, Cubs fans should be the least one to describe because there are Cubs fans, and I think you are one of them, that still blame Dusty Baker
for overworking Cubs arms. Ferguson Jenkins did not throw a pitch till he was 16 years old. He's a Hall of Famer. These kids are throwing pitches now at the age of 7, 8 years old. Ben Brown's already been pitching now for 10, 15 years. Already.
And they've never thrown harder.
No.
They've never had this much movement on pitches. The spin rate and everything. It is, no one will ever even sniff 200 again. And nor should they.
And that was the point that I was trying to make is we're talking about records from, the newest record on this thing is 1943. None of these records are going to be touched again. Short of there being some Mickey Mantle kid that comes in that is just insanely good, which maybe we haven't met yet. Maybe he hasn't been born yet. But I just don't. Baseball's a hard sport. The top hitters get out 6 out of 10 times.
More than that.
The top hitters get out 7 times every 10 at bats.
I mean, pretty much 7 times a game.
Yes.
7 times, yeah. Every 10 times, yeah.
So we can change the record books. Honestly, my personal opinion, we can change the record books. We can add to them as much as you want to. It's not going to change how we feel about our top stars today. Our Clayton Kershaws, our guys that. Hold on, my computer's about to die. Our top guys. I mean, there is just. There we go. It doesn't change the way that we feel about them just because they're not sitting at the top of the official record books. We have our greats, Acuna. We have our Acunas, our Shohei Ohtanis. We have our greats, and they will always be greats in our eyes. Ryan Sandberg, one of my favorite players of all time. He may not be on the top of any list, but he's a Hall of Famer because he was recognized for doing what he did in his era. He was recognized for what he did in his era, the 80s and the 90s. Just like we recognize Josh Gibson and we recognize Babe Ruth for what they did in their eras. They were the best of the best for their time period.
And a couple of those names you just named off, if they played in Josh Gibson's era, they would not even be allowed to play.
Correct.
And that is an issue. Like, you would not have a Ronald Acuna.
Yeah. And a lot of those guys, and the Negro Leagues were a big part of that. It allowed those guys to get to a point where Jackie Robinson finally could break into baseball and play. We owe so much to those guys for having the balls and having the courage to be able to be out there and do that. I can't even imagine the pressure that Jackie Robinson was under. I can't even fathom what he heard from the stands.
No, but I mean, you see the movie. I don't know, it's a movie, but so on.
And on top of that, to still be able to go out there and play not just baseball, but good baseball. Jackie was good. One of the best of the best. I take that. I'm telling you.
Yeah, without question. It's it'll be interesting to see how it turns out along with this. How about a little Who Am I? You want to on this? Okay, Who Am I? Again, if you never played this game, I've got 5 clues. This is an athlete, person. You just got to tell me who it is. First one to comment it, or you could try and beat Leroy to it. I know, Leroy, you won last time, I believe. I don't remember as to who you got, but you did win at least one of these times.
I got one.
I don't remember as to who won last week's, but are you ready? Okay, here we go. The first one. I spent 32 years as a NASCAR driver. I spent 32 years as a NASCAR driver. It could be any sport, Leroy. Any sport. You ready for clue 2? You're not going to get it on clue 1. Clue 2.
Yep.
My first win came at the now defunct Riverside Raceway.
Riverside Raceway.
Which, I'll be honest, I had never heard of.
Okay. All right.
Okay, you ready? Next clue.
Yup.
I was involved in a horrific crash at the Busch Clash that left me with a concussion. My eyes were swollen so bad that I had to tape my eyes open for the Daytona 500 that followed. He is also credited with being one of the main reasons that NASCAR now takes concussions seriously. So I was involved in a horrific crash at the Busch Clash that left me with a concussion. My eyes were swollen so bad that I had to tape them open for the Daytona 500. Ryan Newman was your guess?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. Clue number 4. I, along with Jimmy Johnson, have the NASCAR record for most consecutive years with at least one win. 17. I, along with Jimmy Johnson, have the NASCAR record for most consecutive years with at least one win. 17. Got a guess? It's not Richard Petty or Mark Martin, too.
Daryl Waltrip.
Good guess, no. This is not one of the clues, but I don't know whether I've mentioned it on this show. In the NASCAR Thunder 2003 game. No, John. Not a bad guess, though. Not a bad guess. So I guess I just gave away around what year he was in that game, and for whatever reason, because in the new NASCAR games, you can a rivalry can be created.
Yep.
That game didn't have that, but for whatever reason, this guy always would seem to wreck me. And it wasn't so it turned out to be anytime I'd see him, I'd have to run him into the wall. So if my little brother was watching, he would immediately get this, because every time I see this guy's face, I'm like, ooh,
Ben Rhodes is my nightmare. Ben freaking Rhodes.
Shout out Louisville. Okay. I am a member of the Virginia Hall of Fame and a future member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2025.
Ooh.
I am a member of the Virginia Hall of Fame and a future member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame class of 2025. Again, the clues. No, this is clue 5, Paul.
Poor Paul. You're asking a NASCAR question. He's not going to have an answer for you if it was like, if you
this
gave
is a
30 clues, you would not have an answer.
We're just doing one person this week, Paul. It is not Jeff Gordon. Again, the clues were, I spent 32 years as a NASCAR driver. My first win came at the now defunct Riverside Raceway. I was involved in a horrific crash at the Busch Clash that left me with a concussion. My eyes were swollen so bad that I had to tape them open for the Daytona 500. I, along with Jimmy Johnson, have the NASCAR record for most consecutive years with one win. It's 17 straight. which is wild stat. I am a member of the Virginia Hall of Fame and the class of 2025 NASCAR Hall of Fame. It is not Richard Petty.
Bobby Labonte?
No, not a. You're in the era. You're in the era. Too new, John. Too new. This guy retired 05, 06, 07 in that period. But he raced for 32 years. And he's known for, okay, I'm giving you a sixth one. He's known for, I'd say his best known sponsor, you wash your clothes with it. No to Bill Elliott. Ricky Rudd. Ricky Rudd is this week. That's awesome. Oh, Chase. Chase came in and pulled away with Ricky Rudd too. Right at the end of that. That story about him, though, he apparently was involved. Yep, the Tide car. Ricky Rudd, Paul. He was involved in a crash that was so bad that his eyes were swollen shut, and he literally taped them open so he could actually run the race. And NASCAR later learned that obviously he was concussed.
Yeah.
And they actually made some changes. But I would have never guessed that he has the record with Jimmy Johnson for most consecutive years with at least one win. I would have never guessed that for Ricky Rudd. But yes, Ricky Rudd is this week's Who Am I? Thanks, Paul. Neil Bonnet was his sub that race. So I guess he didn't end up racing. Neil Bonnet? I don't even know that name. Do you know that name?
Yeah.
Neil Bonnet. Do you have tidbits?
I do have tidbits. Let's get to them. The Chicago Bears are set to be on Hard Knocks.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that.
I thought the Giants were going to be on there, but apparently Giants are off-season and Bears are preseason. I don't know. Indiana Fever coach and Caitlin Clark not getting along. I'm no expert, but I feel like the Indiana Fever coach is on borrowed time. Generally, when this kind of stuff happens, it's not the player that gets thrown out. Unless you're Jorge Lopez, in which case he's done. Jorge Lopez apologized to the Mets, but I don't know if I necessarily agree or disagree with him. I'm very upset with the way that things are going, and then clarified his statements, but that didn't come until after the Mets DFA'd him. Fan got his glove though. Turk Wendell one time threw his glove out into the stands. The Cubs fined him $5,000, which tells you how many years ago that was. Louisville police officer who arrested Sky Scheffler said he has no ill will towards the pro golfer for injuries. The detective said he suffered while directing traffic.
We didn't talk enough about that story.
After a fatal accident during the PGA Championship. A Louisville prosecutor dropped charges against Scheffler on Wednesday. Jefferson County Attorney Michael Connell said Scheffler's explanation he had a misunderstanding with an officer directing traffic outside Valhalla Golf Club was corroborated by evidence. The officer said he wishes Scheffler and his family all the best, but took issue with comments by Scheffler's attorney. Gillis released a one-page statement to Wave in Louisville on Wednesday night. Scheffler's attorney, Steve Romany, said his client had been falsely arrested and has grounds for a lawsuit, but doesn't wish to pursue any litigation. Romany said Wednesday the multiple on-scene witnesses can confirm Gillis was never dragged by the car.
Yeah, I mean, Romines is a powerful attorney in Louisville. And it's funny, like, listening to him talk about this, but that entire scenario, like Paul said. But then at the end,
the video came out, and there was nothing there.
Did you read the statement that he had? I don't know. Did you read it or see it?
I saw it.
So, it's got the statement. Clearly, the lawyer wrote, and then at the end, it literally says, like, P.S. Those pants, they were $80, and they actually were destroyed. And everyone's like, oh, you should have just left that part out, bud, because the pants are where everyone's making fun of you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, $80 pants. It's like, yes, they really do make us pay $80 for pants. Like, what are we doing?
Feet Finders has offered $100,000 or something to women in the WNBA if they participate in a foot contest during the All-Star game. And then Joseph Newgarden won the Indy 500. Back-to-back wins for Newgarden. It's the first time a driver has won back-to-back Indy 500s since Elio Castroneves won in 01 and 02.
Didn't think we were having feet fetishes on the show today. Speaking of feet fetishes.
You were wrong.
Speaking of foot fetishes. How about we cue the music? Because that works, right? Leroy's logos, right? Right? Leroy, you're at 379 for Leroy's logos right now. After this week, for the month of June, we're gonna take a month off of as far as themes, but it's all gonna be throwback logos, but they're all gonna be bigger schools. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to guess the Kentuckys, the Texases, and so on, but they're all going to be throwback logos.
Throwback logos.
So it's going to be throwback month in June. But there will be no theme, so there'll be 4.
They're bigger schools, though, right?
Yes.
You're not giving me like the...
No. The smallest I might use...
alternative logo from 1875.
I might drop in like a throwback Western logo or something like that. Like, that would be maybe the smallest I would go. But it would all be FBS big schools. All right. So the final theme, at least for a little bit. Leroy, would you like door number 1, 2, or 3 to open up?
New 1.
1.
Yeah, 1.
Oh, you're going to start off with a bang.
Oh, man. It's the Beeb.
The Beebs?
The
Justin
Beebs?
Bieber? Do you think you know it?
Yes, but I can't remember if it's the Maine or if it's the state.
Okay, I'm going to stop the music right now. Leroy, what is your guess?
I'm going to go Oregon State.
Correct. That is Oregon State. You've now stopped your slide, Leroy. Would you? And Paul Reeves also did pull that one out correctly. John, no, it is not Ohio State. Sorry. Would you like 2 or 3 next?
2.
2. 2. Door number 2.
Ooh. The Navy midshipman. No, I'm just kidding. That's not my...
Not an awful guess. They're trademarks, too, in case you didn't notice that. I see a comment. But John says it's Alabama.
Roll Tide?
Roll Tide! Do you have a guess, Leroy? This is a tough one.
Yeah, I'm going to go...
What is your guess?
Chicago State.
Chicago State. That is incorrect. This is NJIT, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. They are a D1 school. They are like, it is a legitimate.
You said you weren't going to do the School of the Blind.
For throwback logos.
What's their logo now?
This is their logo. It's not June yet. Because that's Oregon State's actual logo. No, that's throwback start next week. No, that is NJIT, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. There's your final one. Now, I will say with this logo, typically the school name is on each side of it. But for me to give the school, like, I had to just do this. But I'm not going to feel bad about this one.
No. And you gave me New Jersey Institute of Technology, man. And John, I'm disappointed you didn't get that one right, man.
It is in New Jersey, yeah. Paul's guess was Liberty, too. Not a bad guess, but... Anything here? Anything coming to mind?
Cal State.
Cal State. Final answer?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. Chase Blaine pulls out Sam Houston. That is correct. Sam Houston State. The Bearcats. But remember, Bearcats is spelled with a K instead of a C for cats. Which,
of course,
yes.
Of course it is.
It is. Leroy, the theme for this week's Leroy's logos: Oregon State, NJIT, and Sam Houston State.
They're all schools that are on a body of water.
I mean, I guess. But
your themes are so out there, Gormley. Like schools that are east of the Mississippi River when the sun is down across.
There is an actual theme to this, and I feel like you're the only one that can come up with this. Paul might be, just because he's obscured with that. Chase says all have orange, which is
are they all teams that are in the baseball the college baseball playoffs?
No. I'll just have to. Okay. Might have to drop in here. Let's just see. All schools Leroy's gotten wrong before. No, I've never dropped NJIT.
No, I would have remembered if he would have done
NJIT, yeah. And
NJIT.
I would hope he would get Oregon State right the first time. I gave you the softball there. What about...
It's a really big beaver, by the way.
It is. It is an obnoxiously big beaver.
It's a big furry beaver.
Okay. Any other guesses here? Do you know anything about NJIT?
No, not a thing.
Not a thing. Do you know anything about Sam Houston?
They had a semi-decent basketball team this year.
Do you know anything about Oregon State?
They're really good at lacrosse.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh. They also have really good baseball team. No. But we can go with this, because you've got Nico Horner, you've got Mark Leiter, and you've got Hayden Wesneski.
They're all schools that have
Chicago.
They're all schools that have players that are playing for the Cubs. They all graduated guys that play for the Cubs
right now. Yep, that is this week's theme. Nico Horner,
crazy man.
Mark Leiter, and Hayden Wesneski. Is that it? Wesneski?
Yeah.
Wesneski is this one. I was thinking about pulling out like a high school logo on there.
Yeah.
But I knew you would get mad. So
I would have screamed.
Or I could have put like the flag of the Dominican Republic for somebody, or the Japanese flag to really throw you off for Amanga or Imanaga, or how do you say it? Amanga? Imanaga? Yeah. Okay. That's actually a lot
He had a
easier.
rough start the other day.
But he's still got like a 0.8 ERA, right?
His ERA went up to like 120, which shows how good he was. Gave up 7 runs and only has a 120 ERA.
Did you know Nico Horner played for Oregon State?
No, I don't keep track of a whole. If you gave me a whole list of Cubs players and were like, tell me the college of these guys, I would do horrible at that.
It's funny because it's only like 6 of the 25 or the 26.
Really?
Because you get so many. I mean, you got to think international players, and then guys right out of high school. But I mean, like, you have Dansby Swanson, who went to Vanderbilt.
Yep.
Somebody else went to St. Mary's. That was, and of course, I just closed the Cubs roster. But there aren't a ton of options for that.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
How about a little play clock? Yeah, Pete Alonso went to. Oh, where did he go? Where did Pete Alonso go? Florida? I think he was Florida. I think that's right, Paul. Am I right on Pete Alonso? Florida.
The real important question is, where did Kyle Schwarber go to high school?
Middletown.
Middletown.
Shout out to old Tom Brenneman. How about a little play clock, because we got to get ready to we got a little controversy when it comes to the NASCAR pick contest.
We still got a lot to do, so we gotta go.
We gotta talk about this NASCAR here coming up. So let's go through play clock here really quick. Would you like to ask or answer? We're gonna have to be strict about our 40 seconds here today.
Yep. Shut up, Reeves. Joe Burrow has come out in favor of taunting. He has, and I think we've talked about this before. Maybe
we have. I think I asked you about this,
but I'm asking you this time. There was a nice little discussion between who was it? The brothers,
the Kelce's.
The one that's dating Taylor Swift, Kelsey's had a great conversation with Joe Burrow about taunting and how it's important for the game and how the Kelce's have gotten in trouble a time or two for taunting. So I ask you, are you in favor of it? And if so, why?
I think there might be a line where you can cross, but a lot of it is I've always said, and I think we've said this on this show before too, is you don't want them to taunt. Like John says, don't let them make the play. It's that simple. Let the guys have fun. It is, there is probably a line where it goes too far, but for the most part, I'm not even going to need to take up the full 40 seconds. Let them have fun. Let the kids have fun. Don't like it, stop them. And I'm not even going to take up the full 40.
And listen, Joe Burrow has been sacked plenty of times, and I'm sure he's heard quite a few things, even when he was in college to the NFL. He knows it.
Big conversation happened on one of the, I guess it was a Cincinnati radio personality, and you could have two answers to this, Leroy. You get to change the outcome of one game in baseball history. You get one Cubs and then one just baseball in general. What two are you picking?
So the 03 game between the Cubs and the Marlins, game 6 of the World Series. Yep. I'm changing that. And then the pitch that hit Kirby Puckett in the eye. I want that game to be changed so that Kirby Puckett doesn't play in that game or doesn't get hit.
Interesting. The common one was, and I thought you were going to go with Galarraga.
Oh, yeah. But see, I'm not a big Tigers fan, so that doesn't affect me as much. I know what it means for baseball, and that man had a perfect game. I will. Yeah. But those two, Kirby Puckett. I grew up in Minnesota. Kirby was the man.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. 2012 NLDS. Give me one of those wins, please, for the Reds. Okay, go on. I'm ready.
So I accidentally read this during the quips, but it was supposed to be just a question for you during the 40-second segment. Again, Feet Finders has offered $100,000 or something to women in the WNBA.
3 seconds left on the timer. Oh, time's up.
In a beautiful foot contest. Are you going to watch the Foot Finder contest for the All-Star game? And if so, what women would you like to see in it?
No. Do I just need to say no for 40 seconds? No. Listen, this is not a pod. This is not. That's my 40 seconds. Let me say my 40 seconds here. I'm not somebody that's going to take shots at people for what they enjoy and their fetishes. This is not a podcast where we're going to take shots at that. But that's not one of mine. And no, there is no woman that I would pay any money to see that. I don't want to see that. Keep that to yourself. What were you saying?
Is there any part of the All-Star game of the WNBA that you would watch?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I might watch a little bit of Caitlin Clark.
That's what I was saying, Paul. They already have massive feet. Like, what are we doing?
Just like, listen, and if that's your thing, then all power to you.
God bless. Oh my goodness.
All power to you. As long as you're happy, then we're happy too. And you're not breaking any laws, then go for it. Leroy, I like to ask you food-related questions.
I do.
And last week, you got me thinking. Wrong. It was either last week or the week before. I don't remember which week. You were talking about your experience at the Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So, Leroy, I ask you right now, build the best taco.
Oh, man. Hard shell, baked beans, soft shell, Ground
beans?
beef. Refried beans. Sorry,
Okay.
refried beans. Sorry.
Okay, go on.
Baked beans. What am I doing? Must be sicker than I thought. Ground beef, lettuce, onions, sour cream, cheese, tomatoes, black olives. I know that grosses out a whole lot of people. I like my black olives on my tacos. So that is my perfect. That's my perfect taco. Oh yeah, and I'm cheapo when it comes to sauce. Mild is completely fine with me. I'm older now. I can't handle 10 years ago I would have been all about the hot sauce, but Leroy's not as young as he used to be, and he doesn't like to handle the really hot stuff anymore.
That's when you know you're old.
Yes, when you can't handle the hot sauce or don't want to handle the hot sauce anymore. That's how you know you're old. Ooh. Chicken and mango salsa sweet heat. Oh, see. Yeah, 5 years ago, Leroy loved that. Not so much anymore.
I don't like tomatoes. So that's the one thing that I do not like the tomatoes at all. But ground beef, listen, but I mean, you go to like some of these places, you get a little steak
green pepper, black olives, ground beef, sour cream, onion.
Listen, I'm with you on the black olive too. It's good. You don't usually see it very often. You got drivers.
I do have drivers. They're not well, they are numbered, but I did it quick, so
just I don't.
That the numbers are what they're supposed to be.
I don't care what order you put them in. Just give them to me. This is the driver's content. Ooh,
you gotta tell me whether they're NASCAR drivers, IndyCar drivers, or F1 drivers. And let's go. Maybe. We'll see. This guy looks like Borat, right? Right. What does he look? Does he look like the other guy from what's the racing movie that Sacha Baron Cohen did?
Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
He does kind of look a little bit like Jean Girard. I'm gonna say that's an IndyCar driver. That's Alexander Rossi.
No, that is Tristan Vautier. And actually, all these drivers this week have something in common. So,
what is he, an IndyCar driver?
A brand new IndyCar driver. He starts this week. He raced in 2015, got in a huge crash with Graham Rahal. Rahal got out of his car, went over and kind of pushed him a little bit. That was the biggest news from Tristan Vautier. But he's back this week, replacing Blomqvist. But his racing seat story, is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. All right.
Okay.
Let's go to driver
number. The next one.
Oh, wrong way. Hold on. These are last week's. Hold on. There we go. There's driver number 2.
I'm pretty sure I could go to the Walmart and see this guy there.
Or your bar.
Yeah, he's a NASCAR driver because I see Kurt Busch's car in the background.
Ah, dang it. Yeah. That's Josh Berry.
I would have guessed NASCAR anyways. He looks like a NASCAR driver anyways.
Yeah, big old American flag. The biggest thing with him is he drives for Stewart Haas Racing, which announced they're closing after this year.
All right.
Rest in peace.
Chase was heartbroken about that, I know.
I'm sure he was.
Oh my. Yeah, well, he's not a NASCAR driver.
He's too sexy to be a NASCAR driver.
No, the piano.
Oh, the piano.
Yeah, it has to be an electric guitar.
Music. Got it.
Electric guitar or acoustic is the only option.
This is his Spotify picture, and I have a lot of questions.
F1.
I have a lot of questions.
F1.
Yes, that's Charles Leclerc. You got it, man. 3 for 3 this week.
They're fantastic. All in the news. Is that why
they are all in the news this week? Charles Leclerc won at Monaco, which was a Boar Fest parade.
Yeah, I saw you tick some people off on the social media about that.
I did.
Yeah, I saw it that your post had a lot of comments when you said that.
Listen, I just want people to know. Yes, I did.
Okay, Leroy, we need to have a talk right now. And Chase, Paul, and John, I feel like it's best. I am going to recuse myself from this, and Leroy has to recuse himself from this following discussion. So, John, Chase, and Paul,
what did you do?
Get to
what
vote.
Did you do?
So last week, I picked William Byron, got myself 61 points. Paul took Danny Hamlin, got 45 points. John took Logano, got 23. Tyler took Truex Jr., got 31. Chase was the winner, picking Christopher Bell, getting 67. Luke took Logano, getting 23. Now, there is one person I didn't mention there. And that's because one Mr. Clamola picked, do you remember?
Chase.
You took Kyle Larson.
Kyle, that's what I meant. Kyle Larson, yeah, but Kyle Larson didn't race.
So that's what I was going to ask, and I'm going to leave it up to Paul, John, and Chase. Does Justin Allgaier's points count toward Leroy, or does he get 0 this week? And I'm going to, so Chase, Paul, and John
That's
each get a
bunch
vote.
of BS, Chase. I'll tell you it's a bunch of BS right now, because freaking they gave Busch a waiver 3 years ago, and it wasn't even a NASCAR issue. It was for like some like off the track incident. They give waivers out like candy.
I'm gonna leave it up to them though.
That's
so
ridiculous.
there's three votes in there, so it's majority. Whether Leroy gets Allgaier's, okay. John says Allgaier counts. Chase and Paul, I mean, I know where I would vote.
And the race was shortened because they didn't want to race at 1 a.m. after the rain came through. Bunch of pansies.
So Chase and Paul. So Paul, that is the question. Should we or should we not? John says we should. And listen.
I forgot. I'm recusing myself. I forgot.
Yeah, there is no, that's why, because right now I am the leader in the point standings. That's why I'm recusing myself. Because right now, the standings, Leroy, you have fallen way behind because I right now have you at 0. So right now, I'm in first at 391. Paul has 385. Chase is 370. Leroy, you have 337. So that's the question is if Paul and Chase, if you both say that he should not get the points, then that's fine. That's why I'm leaving it up to them. I'm leaving it up to a vote. I've recused myself. And you've recused yourself as well, Leroy. I know how I would vote, but I wanted to leave it up to them. While we're thinking about it, they're racing at the Worldwide Technology Center as well this week.
I'll be there.
You will be there. Are you going to be allowed to work?
I'm working.
Or are you going to be watching?
I unfortunately have to work.
Okay, so Chase is going to say whatever Paul's answer is.
I'll be guarding photos. Well, cameras.
And we'll do that. So while we're talking about it, the Worldwide Technology Center is the host of this week's race. Luke hasn't commented yet, so he might not be watching today. But John, you are not allowed to pick Joey Logano this week because you picked him 2 straight weeks. But you're allowed to pick any other driver. Other than that, everyone else is open. Okay. Chase is on. You don't get the points. Paul says he's fine with it. So I'll have to calculate Justin Allgaier's points because since he's not a points driver.
Kurt Busch got a waiver for missing 3 races in 2015 that have nothing to do with injury or racing. So you know what? Ridiculous.
Now, okay. So I will have to count up Allgaier's points, and I will do that, and I will update the standings with that. So they're going to give you the points, Leroy, for Justin Allgaier. I'll be honest, I would not have.
I know you wouldn't have, because you're scared of me.
What would you have voted if roles were reversed? Would you have counted it? Really? No, but see, that's why I let them vote and not me. They're a lot nicer, I guess. I'm going to take Kyle Larson this week. John is taking William Byron. You owe Paul, Leroy. Who you got this week at the Worldwide Technology Center?
Hey, since he didn't race last week, can I go with you?
Can you go with who? This is outside of St. Louis.
I go with Kyle Larson since he didn't race last week.
Technically, you can go Larson, but you wouldn't be able to pick Larson next week at Sonoma.
I know. And I will go. Tyler says Denny Hamlin. If I don't remember who he took last week.
Truex, so he's good.
Yeah, and I will take Larson next week. For what it's worth, Kurt Busch. For what it's worth, Kyle Busch won this race last year, right? Chase, correct me on that. It was one of the Bushes. I get them mixed up all the damn time.
Didn't Kyle Busch just win like his first race in like 3 years earlier this year?
Or was it Curtis? Oh, I'm losing my mind, man. This stupid medicine's got me all messed up.
Was Kurt driving the 97 Sharpie car?
No, I thought it was the
And
3.
I'm also disappointed, Leroy, that you haven't commented on my hat tonight. I thought you'd appreciate it.
What is that? Stars? The Stars hat?
No.
Yes, see, I was right. Kyle did win last year. Thank you, Chase.
Okay.
What is that? What is that hat?
Blue Jackets.
Oh, I got confused because it wasn't blue or red or white.
Yeah, I don't particularly. I think it's like their Thanksgiving. It was Brad Keselowski that won. Okay, that snapped his big race streak. I don't really know, but I was going through my old hats and I found some old ones too, including one of a major league team that I don't know. Okay, Chase says Justin Allgaier got 27 points. I'll trust Chase. Do you trust Chase for his points?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll put you on there for 27. So that'll update the standings right now of...
By the way, I just want to say, you talked earlier about winning races, like winning at least one race in the season. Scott Dixon over in IndyCar has won at least one race in 20 straight years, which is insane because their season is about half as long as NASCAR's.
Yeah, and the NASCAR record is 17. Ricky Rudd and Jimmy Johnson.
That's
crazy. I mean, so Paul, I've got you down for Logano. Chase, if you want to drop in your comment as well. If I would have told you, and Chase, I'm curious if you would have gotten this right, is what 2 drivers hold the record for most consecutive years with a win? Would you have gotten those?
I would have said Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. That's what I would have said.
Yeah, Ricky Rudd would have not been somebody that would have even crossed my mind.
No, but Ricky Rudd was good for a really long time.
And he was a jerk in NASCAR Thunder 2003. A jerk. A jerk.
Ben Rhodes, nicest guy in the world. Hate him on the track. Oh, my goodness.
I'll fact check you. Chase, if you do have a pick through this week, you can drop that in. So the point standings right now, I am in first, 391. Paul's in second, 385. Chase at 370. Leroy at 364. John, 285. Tyler, 257. Luke, 110. Bert, 17. This is, now Chase, this was Wikipedia. So it's got to be right.
Take it for what you will.
I mean, Wikipedia said it, so it's got to be right. So, I mean, we are very close in here as well. As far as the difference between us and 1 week could be the difference.
I think Chase is right. 19 straight seasons.
Oh, well.
Came February 26th with past Richard Petty on the all. Well, hold on, wait. Kyle Busch surpassed Richard Petty on the all-time list. The victory in 19 consecutive NASCAR Cup seasons. Record-setting win came February 26th at Auto Club Speedway in Busch's first victory with RCR.
Facts are optional on this podcast, Leroy. Wikipedia lied to me.
Kyle Busch, Jr. Johnson. Wait, what else? What? Hold on a second. Get this all figured out here. Oh, that's on the bottom of the list. Hold on. I got you. I go to the bottom. We gotta go to the other side. Kyle Busch, 19. Richard Petty, 18. Jimmy Johnson, 16. David Pearson, 17. Rusty Wallace, 16. Ricky Rudd, 16. They're up there. But yeah. Kyle Busch has 19.
Facts are optional. Chase did pick Chris Buescher. Here you go. Buy or sell, Leroy.
Yeah, sell. Hard sell. That was awful at Bristol.
Chase.
Ugh.
I already know he's got should NASCAR race more dirt tracks. What about Eldora?
Hey, the owner of Eldora just passed away. Rest in peace.
What about Florence Speedway?
Why doesn't IndyCar race at Kentucky Motor Speedway? That's the question.
Well, Kentucky Motor Speedway is the one in Whitesville, Kentucky, that's just up the road. Kentucky Speedway. Because I think Chase is right. Isn't it Motor Speedway is the one, and it's like a little, like, I don't even know. Chase will be able to tell me how long it is, but there is a little short track.
Is there really?
In it's in Whitesville, Kentucky, which is a super small town outside of Owensboro. Chase, how long is it? Kentucky Motor Speedway. And I'll see now. I love road courses, Paul. I think road course is the best NASCAR racing. Do you agree with that, Leroy?
No,
You don't like road courses?
I do, but I don't think they're better than ovals.
Ooh, yeah, I
There's
love
so
them.
much strategy that comes with oval racing. Oh my goodness, I wish IndyCar did more ovals. Everyone thinks they're boring, and I'm so into the strategy that goes around with it. There's so much strategy that goes into it.
I gotta look up how long Kentucky Motor Speedway is. Kentucky Motor Speedway. Yeah, because it's in Whitesville, Kentucky. Okay, it's 3/8 of a mile. 3/8 of a mile. They hosted the NASCAR Southeast Series in 2003.
Yeah, Jeremy Mayfield from Owensboro,
Yeah.
absolutely raced there. Yeah,
You know what? In fact, Chase has probably never heard your Jeremy Mayfield story.
yeah. Jeremy Mayfield and I are actual real friends in real life. He and I have known each other for a long time. Him and his wife Shayna, we go way back. Jeremy actually came to Iraq to see me. He actually made a special. We were at a really small base that was out of the way from all the main bases, and him along with Clay Milliken and the little short girl, female NHRA race car. I can never remember her name, but she came along as well. It wasn't
Jennifer Jo Cobb?
No, it was Enders and Erica Enders came along, and they made a special stop over at my base just because I was there. And came and see me. He got to shoot machine guns and had an absolute blast out there. I got to hang out with them for quite a few days before they headed back home. But he said he learned so much on that trip overseas. We had a blast hanging out with him, and I got to see Clay actually this last year at St. Louis, and he remembered me. Crazy, couldn't believe it. From their trip out there. But yeah, Jeremy just had a birthday actually. He and I still talk quite regularly. And Paul jokes that I die on too many hills, but I truly believe that NASCAR blackballed him. And I really hate what they did. And actually, the reason I'm a big IndyCar fan is because of how NASCAR treated Jeremy. It was a really hard time for me to get back into NASCAR racing after that whole incident happened because of what they did to him. So huge Jeremy Mayfield fan. Have bunch of his shirts, have a bunch of his hats. Big JM fan. Yeah.
Why don't we get him on the pod?
You know what? I bet he would. Honestly, I bet he would. I should ask him.
This summer, let's do it. Chase, I'm sure you'd love to watch an episode with Jeremy Mayfield. Do you like drag racing? Paul wants to know.
It's grown on me quite a lot. I got that PA job with drag racing last year. It's a lot more intense than what I thought it was. You know, you think about drag racing, and the common person thinks about drag racing, and it's you're just racing down a straight line. These guys actually, it's a horrible term, but I like to use it. It's called race to lose, and the reason I say that is because they'll have a slow car race against like a Corvette, right? So you'll see like a Toyota, like a truck race against a Corvette. You'll be like, oh, right, the Corvette wins easily. But they set themselves times. So like the Corvette says they can do 806.8 seconds. The truck says that you can do 809 seconds. So the truck gets a 3-second head start because he's got 9 seconds to get down there. So the Corvette has to sit there and wait. If they beat their time, they lose. The other person automatically wins. If they are slower than their time, so if like he says 9.05 and he finishes at 9.07 and the other guy finishes at 6.18, the 9.05 guy wins, which I think is spectacular. It's a great style of racing. It allows slow cars to race against fast cars and gives people actual like reason to watch it. I've really fallen in love with it over the last 2 years because it can be super competitive. It's a whole lot of fun.
Here's a question from Chase. What does IndyCar need to do to expand the schedule or add more ovals? I don't think any races get added without expanding the schedule.
Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of days off, and it's ridiculous. Texas got taken off the schedule. They added thermal, which was $1 million challenge, which was supposed to be a big gap, supposed to close the gap between St. Pete at the beginning of the year and Long Beach. Instead, they threw thermal like 3 weeks after St. Pete, but there was still a month in between. So it'd be like baseball having a game on Monday and then waiting or having a series like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then taking 3 weeks off before they got their season going. It's ridiculous. But the problem is that early in the season, it's hard to find places that are warm to have races because in March, it's still fairly cold up north. So I'd like to see them expand down to like Mexico, or have a Mexico race, or have like an Argentina race somewhere in Central America or South America. That'd be all right. But they need to do something to add more races, because I tell you what, and even with IndyCar, with the Indy 500, they ticked me off because they hardly promoted Detroit. It's like IndyCar, it's like the Indy 500 is their big championship, but it's not. It's a regular race. It used to be double points. It's single points now. They are in Detroit this weekend, and IndyCar has not marketed it at all. And it's super frustrating.
Legitimate question for you. Do they really need to spend like 3 weeks in Indy getting ready for it?
Yes.
Because I feel like that they spend, and I mean, you know me, I can't even call myself a casual IndyCar fan. I'm a nothing towards IndyCar.
A lot of NASCAR fans who were watching IndyCar for the first time because Kyle Larson was there were like, holy cow, they're racing, they're practicing there 8 times. Every practice that they have, there's a reason for that practice.
It just seems a little much.
Every single practice is for a specific reason. It's just, and Chase is right. Look, a lot of it really is tradition. A lot of it is this is a race that's 108 years old. 108 years old. They've been doing this race now for over 100 years.
Kentucky Derby is 150 years old.
Okay. When you have your horses go 230 miles an hour, then you come back and talk to me, all right?
The Kentucky Derby is a much better event than the Indianapolis 500.
Oh, okay.
Fact.
Opinion.
I guarantee the views were higher.
They were not.
I bet they were. You can believe what you want.
I will. Thank you.
I'm right, Chase. Sorry. Listen. Yeah, I mean, no, wouldn't it be funny if they could like put 2 or 3 horses together and just like let those guys rip?
Story, actually, connecting NASCAR with the Kentucky Derby. Jeremy Mayfield actually he had a Kentucky Derby sponsored car for, I think, the 100th Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, the 150th was this year, so maybe 125.
Yeah, maybe it was 125. But he had a Kentucky Derby sponsored car, and he brought the car to the Kentucky Derby track. And his crew chief was like, "You gotta go. You gotta like really, really go." Jeremy didn't want to scare the horses, so I guess he only did it like 30% throttle because he didn't want to scare the horses when he did a lap around the track.
So I guess it was a year and a half ago. Chase was there, but our KBA, our Kentucky Broadcast Association conference, was in Owensboro. And since it was in Owensboro, it was a NASCAR themed, and they had a NASCAR parked in there. And it was funny when we were leaving, because this is when Dale Earnhardt Jr. was there. And they fired it up to drive it out. And it's just amazing. Like, that wasn't even like a souped up car. That was a show car.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing still the just how loud it was. But Chase got to meet Mike Bagley. Is that his name?
Yeah. Cool.
From MRN. And we tried to meet Dale Jr., but that was my bosses. We only got to meet him.
It didn't work out for you.
I was like, come on, you can't just like say, hey Dale, come on, like you can come and just like I was like, I just want a high five. You know, I don't need an autograph. I don't like maybe a selfie, like that'd be cool, but it still was it was still pretty cool.
All those practices have a reason. They're all very, very important. You might be able to get rid of 1 or 2, but again, I have to agree with Chase. The tradition of having that means a lot to those fans.
And like I mean, you know me. I'm not even IndyCar is there. Like it's not something that I follow even a little bit.
Yep.
But so to me, I just feel like it's been one of those things that's been talked about for 6 weeks. And
The thing is if half of the 350,000 people that came to the Indy 500 cared about any of the other races on the schedule, IndyCar would be fine. But we had 5.3 million people. Oh, what's your tea time? 8 a.m., 7 a.m. They had 5.3 million people watch the race, watch the Indy 500. It's the most they've ever had watched the IndyCar race.
They'll be 5.3 million.
5.3 million is how many watched the IndyCar race this year. They'll be lucky if they get, and they had like 300,000 that streamed it online. They'll be lucky if they get 1 point. They'll be lucky if they get 1.3 for this week in Detroit.
Kentucky Derby was 16.7 million.
That many people watch like 2 minutes of racing?
Yeah, it's the greatest 2 minutes in sports.
Yeah, so much like your love life.
Yeah, it's at least 2:30. Speaking of 2:30, that's what time Paul's going to be up to tonight, because I'm just going to remind him about the finger. And that'll wrap us up here today. We'll see you next week. But in all seriousness, we'll have to get Jeremy Mayfield on the show at some point this summer. That would be kind of fun. And maybe we'll get some other guests. Who knows what could come up, but who knows what the show could bring. We didn't really know everything was going to happen in baseball last week, but we should be back normal time next week from the Pressbox.
Yep.
See you next week, Leroy.
Thanks for all hanging out with us tonight, man. We appreciate all of you.
Feel better soon.
Thank you.